Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be seated here with you, Asha, and to talk to you more about your commission encounters. But first, I'm really interested to find out where your passion for music started for you. Where did the seeds that were planted in your brain to get interested in music and arrangement start for you?
I guess it was always there in my background. My mum's a professional musician, a music lecturer, and my dad's a storyteller. And in the way he told stories, he'd always incorporate musical instruments into the narrative. So you would be sat there listening to the story and be given a drum to bang along, and he would play the gumburi, which is this African instrument, and all sorts of different guitar-like instruments from around the world, like the oud. And they used to play a really wide range of music to me as a baby. It would be different music to suit the mood of me. So when I got really angry, I'd be played this really aggressive Moroccan Gnawa drumming music. And then my mum would play me Stockhausen to, when I was just a toddler, just exploring the world around me. And I didn't really think of these really strange Stockhausen electronic music sounds as anything particularly weird and untoward. I just accepted it as part of the natural scenery. But even then, I didn't really learn music formally until I was about 6 or 7. It was just around me. And I initially preferred stuff like drama and writing. But gradually, the more I saw that as akin to music, especially having those two strands, so having my dad incorporate music into his stories, and then my mum approaching music purely from a musician's perspective, I gradually saw how they could be linked together, and it became more and more important to me. But I didn't really take it seriously till I was about 9.
Well, I want to take you back to how you said that you grew up around this quite magical sounding environment of music. So it's quite a unique space to be in. I mean, how has that affected how you write music today? Has it imprinted in your music making?
I think definitely in the way that I'm really interested in loads of different music. It's not really one particular style of music that I'm drawn to over other things. It'll be more that, for example, the narrative of the situation in Syria really got on my brain, and I immersed myself in music from that culture because I was used to having such a wide range of stuff around me that there wasn't really any division in music I approached. So growing up in that sound world made me quite open to stuff. And it made me quite open to stuff in a way that wasn't too academic and theoretical, because it was always integrated with where I was at as well.
Well, talking about your inspiration with what was happening in Syria, you've done an amazing project where you've incorporated that view that you had of what was happening in that part of the world and turned it into a project where you could get so many different people from different faiths together from schools and sing peace into that space. I mean, what was that like to bring people together like that, young people as well?
It was really refreshing for me, and I knew it would be refreshing for me to do that. I saw the situation in Syria and I was really moved by it, and it was a wake-up call to activism in a broader sense, so the general peace movement and everything. And, when I think of where I was then as a teenager and stuff I was going through, it was really good to have that focus of something that was totally good, totally refreshing, and totally helping me to grow as a person and as a thinker and as a composer. So musically, every single way, it was just good. It was amazing to do, and it was really the best thing I think I could have done for myself at that age, and it was totally magical seeing that come together. as more than just a dream in my head. Where before I'd had this idea of all of these kids from different backgrounds singing together, actually seeing how they interact with each other and how fresh that was, how kind of uncontaminated was just totally refreshing and totally moving.
Absolutely. And you said an interesting word there. You said about how that experience with music helped you grow. And musicians and music, and I guess anybody that listens to music and enjoys it, it can become part of your identity. Part of you is in the practice and in the music. Is that something you feel is present when you're writing, or is it something that you purposefully put into the music when you write?
What, my own identity and my own self?
Yeah.
I'd say unintentionally so, yes, sometimes intentionally so. I think I've realised more that that is part of me in my music, the more that I've sat with my compositional voice over time and realised that there's something that's always the same there, just as your personality is always the same. And, you know, certainly with my saxophone concerto triggers, that was, you know, I don't think it was literally about me, but it was about that process of working through your triggers and getting through to your core and everything. And definitely as a performer, writing a piece that integrated that composer voice and performer piece was reflecting those triggers, that personality in a way. So yeah, it's always there, unintentionally or intentionally.
Yeah, definitely. And your talents aren't just with playing music, you're an amazing arranger as well, songwriter, composer. And I'm really keen to find out about your commission piece, Encounters, and what it was like for you writing it. It's a beautiful piece, it's got great pace to it, and it takes you on a brilliant, interesting, almost cinematic journey as well. And I'm interested to know what was your inspiration behind it?
I've been collaborating with the Orchestra of Syrian Musicians for a couple of years, and it was quite experimental initially, the way I collaborated with them. I brought them into my collective Kalpa drummer and explored writing quite open-ended material for them and seeing how I could integrate that as a writer. And then when I saw the scheme for Jazz South, I thought that it'd be really good to extend that project into a more cohesive narrative and story. And I came across the brilliant poetry of Maram Al-Masri, who's a great Syrian writer, one of the most well-known female Arabic writers of her generation. And I thought it was just so powerful, so direct and honest, and I really wanted to tell a story of that poetry, of female experience in those cultures. And I worked with those different things. So first of all, the Syrian musicians, Arabic Maqam, and really immersing myself in that sound world, and also immersing myself in the very direct and powerful message of her poetry, and incorporating it into this whole suite of music, which is Encounters.
And there's some amazing singing in there, and I'm really interested to know what's being said in those words within the piece.
So it's all Maram's poetry, basically. I selected 3 poems of hers. One is Women Like Me, the other is Love, and the other is We Have Faces. So you have all of those different perspectives. You have Women Like Me, this real sense of repression, being trapped in, in the vicious cycle of domestic violence. Then you have Love, which is about, the more individual aspect, the more feeling aspect, and beautiful kind of poem about love as something more permanent rather than just beginnings and endings, and this being something much more idealistic. Then you have We Have Faces, which is all about identity at the end of that, and that's like, you start off with that quite bitter narrative in Women Like Me, then it begins to become far sweeter, and then it becomes more refined and more a sense of self, a sense of person at the end, and we have faces once you go through that journey of love. So that's exactly what the words are about, and they were all in. I read them in either French or English, but they were originally written in Arabic.
And that's quite an emotional journey, and I do get that feeling from the piece as well. It's a very emotional journey. Is that the same for you whilst you were playing it as well?
I think definitely when I was writing it, and when I was playing it at different points, it was emotional for me. You know, just taking on the amount of emotion that's in Maram's poetry alone is quite significant. And I remember when I first read those poems, I thought, wow, you know, it's hard-hitting stuff, and the journey of incorporating that into the music was, especially with the whole pandemic situation, it's quite a journey in itself for sure. And then when I was playing it, it was quite distracting in a way to hear your piece come to life. So I was thinking of that partly. I was thinking, oh wow, it's being played, these people are amazing, it's just amazing to be with people. And then part of me was thinking, oh wow, it's just, now I'm hearing the realisation of that, and part of me is paying attention to that, but then part of you is just caught up in the whole thing of it happening and hearing the actual instruments and everything.
Absolutely, well, it's a very beautiful piece of music, and I can't wait to hear more projects and music from you. You're definitely a musician to watch, absolutely talented and amazing. But thank you so much for having a chat with us here at Jazz South.